Welcome to another episode of OG55 Live. I am here with the Italiano, Mr. Citrus George, host of our Walt Disney World show, Citrus Corner. We're going live. We're taking your questions. We're going to basically just have a chat. We have no topics today. So whatever you guys and gals want to talk about, it's a blank canvas. So welcome to OG55 Live. Welcome aboard to another episode of OG55. 55. It is.
And there's the biggest bargain of all.
The biggest bargain of all right here on OG55. So we're basically today, it's going to be a real laid back live show. There's no topics. You guys and gals are going to basically control the direction of the show. Whatever you want to talk about is what we're going to talk about. So I want to welcome everybody into the chat. We got Mr. Theme Park Casual. We got Nerves and Gel, I think is how you say it. Thank you for coming in. Nerves and Gel. We got Mr. Matthew Murr. We love you, Mr. Matthew Murr. We got Lord Jonathan. We got Mr. BJ Vincent. So a lot of folks in the chat already. We got some fantastic questions. George, are you ready?
Let's do this thing, bro.
Okay, we're doing this. So Lord Jonathan, it is an honor to be in your presence, Lord. So Lord Jonathan, question: should Disney buy Square Enix to compete with Universal Nintendo Land? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Here's my thought, and George, if you have a different opinion, that's totally cool. My feeling is that when it comes to video games, you're never going to outdo Nintendo. You're just not. Nintendo is the king of all gaming IPs. It just is.
Sega learned that the hard way.
Yeah, exactly. They learned that the hard way. And you're just not gonna, I don't know. I don't think Disney really needs to compete like one for one, right? So to compete with Nintendo, we need to have a video game. You know, remember Disney competed with Wizarding World with Star Wars and maybe even Avatar. I mean, because, Pandora. They didn't have to they weren't going around looking for we need a magical franchise with wizards too to compete with Harry Potter, right? They had their own franchise that they were able to use. I think Disney needs to tap into their own stuff and not go chasing something similar just because Universal did it. It works for Universal. It works very well for them. And Nintendo is a fantastic brand and franchise, but that doesn't mean you go down that rabbit hole and just do a video game one because they did it. What do you think, though, George?
I'm going to add just something a little to it. I do agree with you. I don't think nothing really can stand the width of Nintendo. That's like the grand poobah of video gamedom. So, but I think it would be kind of interesting if Disney were to buy Square Enix, in the sense that if they were to incorporate that, because I'm a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts. I love the franchise. It's actually the one set of gaming that I actually enjoy, not just because of Disney, but it kind of infuses the Final Fantasy characters. And I just love the original storyline of how they took something so simple and they just created a franchise out of it. So, I mean, and I do know at the Oogie Boogie Bash, when we were recently there, when we were waiting for the parade, behind us where World of Color goes on, I believe it was Donald and Goofy that were in their Kingdom Hearts outfits.
Yes.
So they do kind of incorporate that a little bit in the park, but I mean, I wouldn't want them to purchase Square Enix because of Universal with Nintendo. If Disney was going to purchase Square Enix, I would want them to do it for the purpose of just doing something on their own.
Yeah, or doing it for the gaming element, maybe. If Disney wants to get in, and we have another question about gaming in a little bit, but if Disney wants to get into the video game world and get serious about it this time, and they want to buy Square Enix, okay, that's a whole different conversation. But just to compete with Nintendo Land.
Mm-hmm. That's where it's not gonna. Yeah, it wouldn't fly.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. That's a wrap. 818. It says here, Disneyland Forward project, a whole third park or two separate expansions. Disneyland and DCA, which sounds more exciting?
I think
You know,
we're getting both.
George. Oh, George. Go ahead. You start off.
Yeah, I'm going balls to the wall. I think maybe not all at once, but I feel like with Disneyland Forward, I feel like they're going to start off with the expansions, especially with DCA. We've
Yeah.
talked about this many times before on the show. DCA needs a heavy duty expansion. It
Right.
really does. It really does need it. Disneyland Park, I don't feel like it needs an expansion right now. I think it can hold its own. However, down the road, do I feel like it would need an expansion after so long? Absolutely. Um, but then I feel like after that, I feel like a third gate is definitely a very high possibility because that way it will secure the Disneyland Resort to then be a kind of like a vacation kingdom, just like how Walt Disney World is. It'll
Yeah.
bring people there to say, hey, you know what? Let's stay here a week. There's 3 theme parks. There's the downtown Disney area, or soon to be a West Coast version of Disney Springs. And then there's also other local things to do also in California.
Yeah.
You know, couple
Yeah.
cafes, it's all that good stuff,
All that good stuff, all that good local OC stuff. Yeah, I'm kind of with you though, George, on that. Like, I think they're going to do both, but obviously this whole Disneyland Forward thing is like a 30-year plan. So we're not going to get all of this at once, obviously. But I think the ultimate goal is to expand both of these parks out, DCA and Disneyland, and eventually add a third park. And I'm still very bullish on that Toy Story parking lot being the site of the third gate. You're never going to find 75 acres in a perfect little square like that ever again in Anaheim. You're just not
close to the property. Like, I mean, you can't get any more closer than that.
I mean, it would be a monorail trip. It would be a bus ride. It's not that far, I mean, if Epic Universe can do it with theirs, I think that distance from the resort to Epic Universe is even a little bit further, if I'm not mistaken. Wizard, if you're watching, Theme Park Wizard, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think it's a little bit further to get to Epic Universe than it would be from Disneyland to the Toy Story lot. So you could definitely do that. So I think they're going to do all of it eventually, but I do think the first phase, though, will be the expansions into Disneyland and into DCA. And here's the other thing too, Disney. If you're watching, I'm telling you right now, when you do this Disneyland Forward thing, you have got to do it right. Do not look. We're very limited on space. You don't want to blow the all the acres that you have on this thing on something kind of janky. I don't want to see Toy Story Land or something like that. We want quality stuff added. We want you to throw some money, right, George? Some money into it.
Give me the drop, some money, dropping on my money.
Brand new money, brand new hundreds, got a bunch of zeros like a bag of new Funyuns.
There we go. Drop some money into it. There we go. All right. Thank you. That's a wrap for the question. Fantastic question.
And before we move on to another question, I just have to address something that Lovelow had put about my...
Oh, here, let me put it up, and then we'll go back. We'll go back up to the thing.
Yeah. So yes, Lovelow, my beard grows back very, very quickly. It's the blessing and a curse of being Italiano. It grows back like very quickly, and soon to be, hopefully we can get a sponsor of Manscaped. Because I mean, like this needs it. It's
yeah. Come on, Manscaped. Email OG, and we'll work something out. I mean, it's like the perfect sponsorship right here. He goes balls to the wall. It's Manscaped. He's got a hefty beard. I mean, come on. It's like the perfect promotional.
It's perfect.
It's a match made in heaven. Come on, Manscaped. All right, next question. Should Disney buy EA games for Star Wars? See, this is something, Lord Jonathan, that I'd be up for. I think that Disney should get serious about video games. I think that there are a lot of people within Disney and even in Wall Street and the industry that thinks that Disney hasn't really tapped into that market. It's one of the few markets in entertainment that they really haven't capitalized on. So if they want to buy the like EA for this, like to have like these Star Wars games, have, creative control or what have you, and not even just for Star Wars, you can do anything, you can do Marvel, whatever. Hey, I'm open for that, just not for the theme parks. What do you think, George?
I think in the long run, I think with EA games, they would have a longer shelf life, so to speak, especially like with the Star Wars games. And I feel like, again, if done well, I feel like that it would, be a contributing factor. I don't know if right now Disney is in the position to
Yeah.
acquire any more things right now, maybe down in the pipeline. They need to just focus on what they have to
Yeah.
deal with right now.
Yeah.
But I would say it wouldn't be a horrible
No.
acquisition if they do decide to.
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna acquire something, EA would be fine, or Candle Media, so you can bring in Tom Staggs and Kevin Meyer. Either one of
There we
those. Hey, we're cooking with gas. All right, Mr. Matthew Murr, friend and family of the channel. Matthew, it is always awesome to see you, sir. Thank you for joining us. I know Matthew's in the UK, so it's not easy for Matthew to join these live shows with the time differences. So, Matthew, we really do appreciate it. Thank you, brother. He says here, how big of a Harry Potter fan would you consider yourself? Okay, so here's the thing. I was talking to George about this before the show. I'm kind of in a weird spot with Harry Potter. I like the world that J.K. Rowling built, that Wizarding world. I think it's fascinating. The aesthetics, just the whole idea behind it. I love it. The movies, I really enjoyed all the movies too. They were really fun. It was a coming of age story with these kids. It was fantastic. For some reason, though, and maybe because I'm older, I'm not really a 90s kid. I was more of an 80s baby. And as an 80s baby, I'm more of a Star Wars guy. That was more of the 80s, I think. So I think I was a little old for the Potter thing. And it didn't leave an imprint on me like someone who was maybe born in the mid 90s or even the early 2000s, maybe. So for me, I don't know. I wouldn't consider myself a huge fan. I don't hate the franchise. I think it's fascinating. I think what she was able to build is amazing. This world building, the Wizarding world, I think it's awesome. The characters are awesome. It's just not my thing, though. I don't really connect with it. What about you, George?
I'm kind of in the middle myself. I do consider myself a Potter fan, maybe not as much of a diehard as I am with Disney, but I did grow up with the books. Being a 90s kid, we had the scholastic reading in school and everything, and that was huge with the Harry Potter books. And then the films came out, and I was able to relate them from reading the books. For which sometimes you could actually, well, not actually, it's actually a proven fact that there's more detailed within the books than the actual films, even though I still enjoy the films. But you can kind of get the best of both worlds there. And I love Wizarding World at Universal. But yeah, I'm not like gung-ho, like where it's like I eat, sleep, and breathe Harry Potter like I do Disney. But I like it. It's a cool franchise. It's a cool world, as you said, OG. The only thing is I could not get into the Fantastic Beasts. If someone were to ask me what the plot was, I couldn't tell you from stem to stern of what the hell those movies are about.
No, I was so confused. I was so lost. I
tried a couple times. I kept on falling asleep to them.
I felt so stupid. I don't know what I was watching. I mean, visually they were pretty movies. The acting was good. I get, but I had no idea.
The storyline was just so hard to follow.
Yeah, really weird. Really, really weird. Nerves and Gel here says, OG, I know you've said you've got into Disney because of animation. Have you watched Mars and Beyond? The last 10 minutes are some of my favorite Disney animation, and it's hosted by Paul Frees. You know what? I have seen that, but it's been a few years. But it's really crazy, actually. The animation in there is really weird, like the Martians and stuff. They look really, really funky. It's kind of stylized. Have you seen that, George?
I haven't. I've heard about it, but I've never actually watched it.
It's on Disney Plus, and that's actually where I saw it. And it was like, but this is years ago. This is like when Disney Plus premiered, I think in like 2019 is when I watched it. So I don't remember all of it, but I just remember loving the art style. It's very educational. You learn from it too. It's not just, it's like the old classic Disney stuff. It's entertaining. You learn something. It's fantastic. And it's like Nerves here says, it's hosted by Paul Frees.
I was going to say, you had me there. Like Paul Frees hosting it. I mean, one of the greatest voice actors, along like with Jack Wagner, and it's like, oh man, that's like perfect. That's classic Disney right there.
Yeah. And we have our good friend Theme Park Casual. We love Theme Park Casual. Had a great time with Casual the other day at Knott's. We had a really, really good time. Really fantastic little park over there. Really, really enjoyed that park. He actually left another comment here saying that he can't participate due to the fact that he's at Disneyland and doesn't have headphones. Have a great stream. Well, thank you, Casual. Appreciate that. And have fun at Disneyland, dude.
Yeah.
Get yourself some ice cream, brother. Get yourself some ice cream.
Casual loves his ice cream.
He's an ice cream guy. Absolutely. Okay, so Nerves and Angel follows up with, how do y'all feel about themed lands? This is interesting. I like this question. Fantasyland, Adventureland, etc., compared to IP lands, Harry Potter and Star Wars. Now, Nerves, this is interesting. It all depends. Okay, let me just say this. Majority of the time, I prefer the more vague, right? Like fantasy, adventure. Majority of the time, because I think you have more options, right? More potential with that. However, there are some franchises that are so they hold so much potential that the single IP land for that particular franchise doesn't hold it back. Star Wars is a perfect example of that. There's so much you can do with Star Wars. I mean, you can do a land based on like Coruscant, which is all cityscape, which is a completely different vibe and energy than like a land that's more like Batuu, which would have a completely different energy than like a land like Tatooine. It can be a Western, it can be a fantasy, it can be more Tomorrowland feeling. There's 1.5 million things you can do with Star Wars. You have all the lore, you have all the war. There's just so much there with Star Wars. I mean, you can do multiple genres, even in the films, and that can translate into the theme parks. So you can literally make an entire park based on this franchise and have endless material, right? So that's why I'm okay with Star Wars as its own land. Huge amount of potential. Harry Potter, it's a little more limited than Star Wars, because like I said, Star Wars, it can be a Western. It can be a war movie. It can be almost like a religious, like magical, mythical kind of movie. Harry Potter is very like they're wizards. It doesn't really move around like Star Wars does, like within the genres, right? But it's a little more limiting with Harry Potter. But Star Wars, the sky is a freaking limit with Star Wars. So to answer your question in short, Nerves, I prefer the more generic themes, but there are a few franchises like a Star Wars that can get away with it. What do you think, George?
I agree. I feel like there's 3 different categories. You have the category of Star Wars, Harry Potter, Avatar that I feel like should deserve their own lands because they're in their own kind of separate universe where if you throw something else in the mix, it kind of taints that aspect of each individual world. Then you have the potential of a franchise that can kind of go both either way. For instance, like Frozen. Frozen, right now in Hong Kong, they're opening up the world of Frozen, which is its own dedicated land. But if you were to put Frozen in Fantasyland, it would still work. Right. So it kind of has like that potential where it could either be put in an overall themed land or an individualized land. And then, of course, you have I don't want to say smaller franchises, but the franchises that just can't hold up to their own individualized land. That's like for instance, Pinocchio. Pinocchio is a great film.
Oh, yeah.
I love the dark ride in Fantasyland, but I wouldn't expect them to make a whole land just dedicated to Pinocchio. It wouldn't work.
Right. So there's certain franchises you can get away with it. There's certain franchises that you can't. Star Wars is kind of a unicorn because there's just so many different directions you can go with. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we stand, Nerves. Great question. Absolutely fantastic question. BJ Vincent, friend of the channel, Mr. BJ Vincent says here, what is your opinion of Best Buy no longer carrying physical movies in 2024? As a Disney exclusive steelbook collector, I think it's lousy. Yeah. BJ, this is the issue that I have with that. Like, I think there should be some level of like progress, right? It's hard to, okay. I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around this a little bit. I think that we, as fans, need to let go a little bit, right? We can't be stuck with Blu-rays forever necessarily. But I do love the physical media because you own something. Like if you buy the Blu-ray, you own that movie now, right? So I think that aspect of it, I'm going to miss, because I do think I think overall these companies are phasing the physical media out. I'm going to miss owning the movie. The problem with this new direction they're going, where everything is streamed and like on these various like streamers, these platforms, is that you don't really own it. I mean, I guess you can download it. I guess it's just not the same. So for ownership reasons, I'm going to miss it. At the same time, though, technology trucks on. eventually things get replaced, and it's sad, but it happens, But what do you think, George?
I kind of fall in the category. I agree with BJ. Just to the fact of because I too love collecting the still books for like the Walt Disney treasures. I have like your host Walt Disney and the Zorro uh, show, the Zorro show, and the Adventures of Spin and Marty and what have you. So I'm like so used to going to Best Buy because that's where I would get them. And also too, I don't have a problem with the streaming per se. And I know, with technology, it's just going to keep growing. We're probably going to get something in 15, 20 years down the road. It's going to be even higher than streaming. We're going to be like watching holographic projectors where it's like, it's literally right in front of us. Like where we're in the action of whatever we're watching. But at the same time, when you have your own personal DVD, Blu-ray, or dare I say it, even VHS. Yes, I am that old, folks. There's no way to alter it. There's no way to change it. There's no censoring of an original classic type of movie. For instance, there's some elements in Peter Pan. There's some elements in Dumbo that on a streaming service, Disney has the control to remove certain things. And I'm not saying that, people are sensitive to things like that. I could respect that and understand it. But if you want an original version of that film and you want to see it as its entirety, the only way you could do that is through a VHS, a DVD, or a Blu-ray.
Fantastic point, George. Absolutely fantastic. You're right. When you own it, that's it. That's the movie. That's always going to be the movie. When it's on a streamer, Disney can pull it back, tinker it, and put it back in. They even had that issue with Splash with Tom Hanks. I think they changed it, but then they changed it back to the original, if I'm not mistaken. But it was something with the girl coming out of the water. They CGI'd her hair longer so it covered her butt. It's like, come on, It's just like, it's kind of ridiculous stuff like that. I'm like, but you're right. That's the kind of bullshit you got to put up with when it's on a streamer, as opposed to if you have that on Blu-ray, that's not going to change. So, and then here, Lovelow, the beard, the almighty beard. There it is. All right. And then we got Kiki and Luca. Kiki and Luca, thank you so much for joining us.
Kiki and Luca.
Yes. And Kiki and Luca, I hope you ask a question today because, their questions are always really good. I love the one we had on the last live show. They asked about what do you do if someone farts in line. That was hilarious.
Yeah. I actually do see one. It's in the pipeline coming up. It's not actually risque, but it is actually a good one, which I do have a good response for that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll get to it. Andrew Kellogg here says, if you go to an international Disney resort, will it be Paris, Tokyo, Hong Kong, or Shanghai? I'm going Tokyo.
Tokyo. It's Tokyo, hands down.
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. First of all, they have the best Disney. I mean, at least Disney Sea is the best Disney. It looks amazing. But I just love Japanese culture. I really have always wanted to go to Tokyo. Even outside of Disney, I would go to the city and check that out. So there's just so much in Japan that I would just absolutely love and adore and that I really want to explore. Not to say that Paris, Hong Kong, or Shanghai doesn't have cool stuff too. They absolutely do. And I would love to, if I have the opportunity to go to those other ones as well, I would absolutely love to go. But Tokyo, number one on my list. What about you, George? You going Tokyo?
Oh, Tokyo all the way is number one. And Paris would be a close second.
Okay.
Paris would be a close second just because of, well, not just because, but they have some things there I would like to check out. But the design frame of how they have their castle. And then on top of that cool nighttime show they have, and how their castle is kind of like, it's like perched on a layer of mountains.
Yes,
so it kind of like, it gives like that Sleeping Beauty, Ivan Earl effect. Like that's like Mary Blair type. Oh man, it's perfect.
Oh, it's freaking amazing. It's freaking amazing. Okay, Trey Porter is in the house. He says, top of the evening. Top of the evening to you, Trey. Now, Trey, George, has been a fan of the channel. He's been watching the videos on OG55 since the very beginning. I think one of the first 2 or 3 videos I ever made, Trey made a comment on one of them. And Trey, to this day, I still remember it because you helped me out a lot, brother. It was, I think he said something to the effect of like the audio is off or something, because I didn't have a mic at the time. And there was a lot of echo.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And
I remember that comment because Trey, actually, I'm one of the original people that also watched OG from the beginning. So I remember you sending that comment. Yeah.
Yes. And it stuck with me because it was like kind of like the beginning of like, once I started with the mic and everything, I kind of went down that road of like this constant like improvement of trying to be better and better and better and better. So Trey, I appreciate you, man, for that. I mean, to this day, I still remember that, dude. And that really did help the channel a lot. And it got the ball rolling for better things to come. So Trey, I just thank you so much for that. And your continued support over all these years. It means a lot, brother. It means a lot. Let me see here. So, okay, let me go. Okay, so we have Kiki and Luca. Galaxy's Edge should have been part of the third park. I would be okay with that, Kiki and Luca. Here's the thing, though. A lot of people don't like Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland, and I'm gonna make the case to you guys watching right now, guys and gals. I'll make the case to you right now as to why I think it's actually perfect at Disneyland. If you look at the franchise of Star Wars, okay, it has everything that Disneyland kind of encompasses, right? The future, which I get it, it's a galaxy a long time ago, but for us, it's still a fucking future. Okay, we don't have this technology; it's the future. So you have Tomorrowland basically in there. You have Frontierland. You know, it's constantly new frontiers, exploring out in areas, you know, beyond it you're not familiar with. Adventureland, you know, where you kind of even the marketplace over in Batu kind of gives that a galactic Adventureland energy, right? Fantasyland, you know, with the fanciful characters, creatures, all that. It's really everything Disneyland represents, all rolled into this one franchise. Even the music, music's a huge part of Disneyland and its DNA. Star Wars is the same thing. Music plays a huge part of Star Wars's DNA. So Star Wars has everything Disneyland represents in one franchise. So it almost, in my opinion, and I know people are going to call me a shill or I'm crazy or whatever. In my opinion, Star Wars at Disneyland, it's almost like a love letter to Disneyland. There's every little element of Disneyland is in that park. I mean, in that land, in its own little way, right? So I think it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful addition to Disneyland. A lot of people, though, Kiki and Luca, like you, they don't believe it belongs in a castle park. I don't know, George. What do you think? You think it belongs in a park like Disneyland, or do you think that maybe it should have got its own? Maybe it should have been its own gate, or maybe it should have gone in a DCA. What do you feel?
Well, for me, I think honestly, out of everything, it does not belong in DCA. That it would not. I don't believe it would stick out like a sore thumb. I feel like Marvel actually fits the bill better for DCA than Star Wars. I will say I was on the train of the disbelievers of thinking, why in the world is Disney putting Star Wars in Disneyland Park? I thought that's gonna stick out like nobody's business. But I have to say, I will eat crow on that one because it works, especially the transition of how they had done it, where it encompasses and it is infused within Frontierland and the rock work, and it just integrates so nicely.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I wish that at Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World it did that. It's like Toy Story Land, and then boom, you're in Galaxy's Edge. Like,
you have like a tunnel. It's almost like the tunnel from like Roger Rabbit or something. I don't know.
That's on the other side. Yeah, that's on the other side from going off of like the Muppets courtyard.
Yeah.
But I will say that if Star Wars does have the potential to be a third park, because I feel like if they were to go that route, instead of just doing one big planet, they can kind of break off different mini lands into different planets, such as like Hoth and the Wookiee planet and Tatooine. Like that would have been a great route. But I feel like that if it was to go in, I'm glad it went into Disneyland than DCA. Yeah. And how Disney did it, they did it the right way.
I completely agree.
However, I will say, sorry to keep interrupting you, bro.
No, you're fine.
Before I forget, but I remember George Lucas quoting that Star Wars is a soap opera in space. Now, if Disney really wanted to get like full on immersive of how they did with Star Wars, if they add in Days of Our Lives, The Bold and the Beautiful, and The Young and the Restless, then they got a full square there.
Yeah, exactly. No, like I said before, Star Wars is endless potential. With the question about, IP lands, Star Wars has so much potential. You can literally build a whole park around it. You could probably build 2 parks. I mean, there's just so much there to it's like to tap and to pull from, you know? So yeah, massive amounts of potential. You can do endless things with Star Wars. Trey Porter here says, what would be the theme of a third gate?
I know what you're. Come on, OG, you got to go for it.
Oh, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to absolutely go for it. Well, okay, there's 2 separate things here, okay? There's what I want it to be and what the most likely will be. So what I want
okay, that's a good. Okay, I have to think of that while you're doing yours.
Yeah, because what I want it to be is fucking Westcott Center. You know, I want Westcott. I don't care if you throw in the IPs in there. You know, I get it. If you want to have the Frozen ride in Europe, fine, do it. You know, you want to have Big Hero 6 in Japan, do it. But just that's fine. But have like basically a world showcase park that they originally had planned, you know, and put it over there in the Toy Story lot, connect it with monorails and people movers. That's what OG wants. That's what I would, in an ideal world, would do. And I think it would do very well here in California with all the locals and the Magic Keys. That drink around the world stuff is big money. Uh-oh. I said money. Should I play it again?
You got to play it.
Okay. I said money, so here we go.
Brand new money, brand new hundreds, got a bunch of zeros like a bag of new Funyuns.
There we go. Yeah, it would be so many zeros like a bag of new Funyuns, just like Little Wheezy said, okay? It would be so much money, okay? It would be like stacking chips like Pringles. It'd be out of control. So I think it would do very well. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think we'll ever see Westcott, ever. I think the likelihood will be a Disney version of like Islands of Adventure. It'll be basically IP lands connected into one kind of overall theme, I guess, you know, but it'll be a bunch of IP lands. So maybe you'll have Pandora, maybe you'll have, I don't know, something Pixar, maybe you'll even have another Star Wars area, and it'll be like that. That's kind of what I think they'll likely do. So I don't know. We'll see. What do you think? Third park theme, what you would want it to be and what you think, what is likely?
Well, I don't know if you, but I think you might know, OG, what I would want it to be. I am a huge fan of the Disney villains, and I would just love to see a whole entire park dedicated to the baddies. You know,
the baddies.
Like the baddies. You know, it's like the villains. It's the characters you love to hate. You know, and it's like they could come up with a great storyline that can kind of captivate, to kind of tell the villain story through their eyes, through entertainment, by luring the guests into their domain. And I think that would be a great overall theme for a third gate. Do I feel like that's what it's going to be? I wish, but I don't think. I
mean, you have a better chance with that than I do with Westcott. I mean, I think that they got a pretty big response at Villains Land at D23. You know.
Yeah, and as far as what it's probably going to be, I'm going to double down on it. I think if they were to do a third gate, which I think it's going to be in the pipeline, maybe not right now, but in the future, I'm going to go for my villains.
There you go. Yeah, I think Villains is the way to go. I really do. I mean, that would be pretty cool, and I think there's a shot at it.
After you read this one, I wanted to address something because it was for Star Wars with Nerves and Gel that wrote.
Oh, we can address that. We'll come back to this one.
Yeah, it's the they like Galaxy's Edge, but doesn't feel whimsical like the rest of the park. I think it belongs elsewhere. Now, where I feel like of why you would probably feel like that, Nerves and Gel, which is the issue with Galaxy's Edge right now. It doesn't have that meat and potatoes in the land like all the other lands do, and which OG and I touched upon this in our most recent video, since Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge released the little mini bots that are droids that are walking around, which is a great start, and hopefully they keep those and they keep on adding. I think if that is the projectile that Disney will be going forward with Galaxy's Edge, I feel like that you would then have a much better feel to it, because I'm the same way, honestly. Aesthetically, Galaxy's Edge is great. Yeah. But I'm not in that land long enough because there's nothing really that holds me there. Yeah, I go there for Rise of the Resistance, maybe Smuggler's Run if I'm on a good day, and possibly Oga's Cantina if I have a reservation. But other than that, it's not a land that I just go just to hang around and just kind of immerse myself in because there's really nothing there to immerse myself with. So I do
Yeah.
agree with you, and I feel like if Disney changes that, you'd probably get a different perspective on that.
100%. 100%. Kiki and Luca here says, I hate the screen rides at Universal. Here's my thing, Kiki and Luca. I'm not like necessarily against screen ride technology. I think there's a place for it, right? So, for example, when they redid the Alice in Wonderland dark ride over here at Disneyland, and they redid the Snow White dark ride at Disneyland, they incorporated projections and screens into those scenes, which really, really worked. They accented the animatronics and just the overall show in a really beautiful way. So I think there's ways you can do it that works. The issue I have is like screens for the sake of screens. And the big thing, my biggest criticism with Universal and screens is the pacing of these things. I mean, I like honestly like a ride like Transformers, when you're sitting in those vehicles, you got your 3D glasses on and it's a bunch of screens, it makes you sick to your stomach because it tosses you around from minute 1 until the very end and it doesn't stop. There's no pacing. It's just rah, the whole time, the whole freaking time. And it's like, come on, that's my only issue mostly with the screen. It's not so much the screens, it's how they utilize them that bothers me.
Well, and I think too, I don't have a problem with a screen-based attraction, but when you utilize that as your main formula for all your rides,
Right.
then it becomes very dull.
Yeah.
It just becomes a repetitive thing.
It does, and they're trying to branch out, and I give Universal props for that with like Secret Life of Pets and things like that. It was cool. Okay, and they're getting the Fast and Furious roller coaster and all that stuff. Okay, cool. They're branching out, but yeah, those screen rides though, dude, like they just the Universal ones are pretty obnoxious, man. And if you're motion sickness, that is not going to work well for you. It's hard. Love Low here says, I want to see some Fox properties at the parks like Planet of the Apes and Predator. That's interesting, Love Love. Now, we talked a lot about the third park, right? And I was talking about how I think the next gate at Disneyland Resort will be an IP park like Island of Adventure. There you go. You can make an edgier park where you have a Planet of the Apes land, maybe an Alien or Predator land. That's something totally different for a Disney park. I think it'd be very, very interesting. What do you think about that notion, George, about incorporating some of these more maybe these adult Fox properties in like a new park or a new land or something?
I think so. Because Disney kind of already dipped in their toes with that a little bit, where they kind of added that risky, I don't want to call it risky, but like during that time, like in Magic Kingdom, it was Alien Encounter before it became Stitch's Great Escape. So it kind of already had that like Alien and Predator type of feel. And also even with the Planet of the Apes, I think that would be really cool, especially if they could really utilize the Fox properties. I mean, at least get something for the $71 billion worth of cash and stock that Iger put into this thing. Other than just the streaming service, because right now the streaming service isn't doing anything for them right now. No. So I mean, the purchase of Fox, I mean, it's like if you can utilize that in the parks, I say go for it. I mean, if you could add more of that of the Fox properties like into Hollywood Studios, that would fit very well. Or something of that notion, or even Planet of the Apes. And I know I'm gonna get dinged here. But even if they were to kind of throw in Planet of the Apes somewhere in Animal Kingdom, because
that could work.
It's still about the animals, of them living and cohabitating in nature and what have you. And plus the rustic look of it, I think would be really cool.
That's actually a clever idea, George. I actually like that quite a bit, actually. That's very clever. Is it Jebba or Jeddah? Jeddah Jade. Jeddah Jade says, hi, OG55. Hey, Jeddah. It's good to see you. Oh, hey, man, your font is pretty crazy cool, man.
I had to look at that like a couple times. Like I have to decode that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I like that. I'm digging that a lot, actually. Okay, so Christian S here says, what if Disneyland California decided to enlarge the castle? Ooh, see, I wouldn't. Okay, here's the thing. Hong Kong did that, right? Hong Kong added to their castle. Hong Kong Disneyland actually had our castle, and they added to the top of it. It looks okay. I wouldn't say it looks great. It looks okay. It looks like an add-on, though. Absolutely. I wouldn't want that for Disneyland. You know, this is Walt's castle. It has historic value to it. It's sentimental, nostalgic. To sit there and like add height to it. I don't know. I'm not really. I'm not a fan of that.
I think it was best for Hong Kong to do that because their castle resembled Disneyland's, and I would have preferred Disneyland to have its original, classic castle. So I'm glad that Hong Kong changed theirs. It gives them their own identity
Right.
for like to recognize the park. But as far as Disneyland goes, no, that was the castle that Walt envisioned. That was the castle that Walt agreed upon. He greenlit that. It was part of the original park. It has so much history, and especially since they have the Sleeping Beauty walkthrough attraction within that. And again, it just that castle screams Disneyland.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it has so
Can't
much
mess
of
with it.
Walt in that. It's like the Holy Lands. It's the sacred land.
The Holy Land, yeah.
That's like you can't touch it.
You can't. It's just, it's an icon of the park. It was the thing that he it's the only park that he really walked through. Walt, he never lived to even see Epcot or any of that. So it's like, I don't know. The castle is one thing I think you should keep the same. Now you can plus the castle in little ways, with paint jobs and tile work and things like that to make it look prettier and nicer. But to change the structure itself, I can't support that. I'm sorry. Mr. Matthew Murr here says, okay, one more question after the previous two. Do you think the Star Wars prequels might have turned out better if Lucas took a back seat to the role of exec producer and brought in director David Yates? I believe David Yates, if I'm not mistaken, Matthew, you can leave the comment, or anyone in the chat can leave a comment. I think he directed some of the Harry Potter stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
Yeah, I mean, he did well with Harry Potter. I don't think he would have done a bad job with Star Wars. I think here's the thing, and this might be an unpopular opinion. George Lucas is a brilliant visionary, but he's not a good director. So he can create a world, and he can world build, and he can create the roadmap for what you should do. But he's not a good director, and you see that a lot in the prequels with the clunky dialogue. It's really awkward. You got fantastic actors and actresses. Natalie Portman is fantastic. She's an excellent actress, and even Natalie Portman sounds awkward as fuck in those prequels. Okay, now I love the prequels. Don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of the prequels, but the acting is really bad, and a lot of that falls on George Lucas, unfortunately. So I think, Matthew, to answer your question, yes, I think they probably would have been better if you would have had George Lucas's mind and his creativity and imagination for the overall vision and where he wants it to go, and you had David Yates to come in there and kind of do the actual directing. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I'm sorry. It was just how you said that it killed me. Like, it was like Natalie Portman's acting was fucking that film.
Yeah, it was awkward. It was so awkward.
Shit.
You're breaking my heart. This whole thing. It's like, it's just so awkward. But I mean, that's not her fault. It was
no,
George Lucas,
it's not. I agree. Natalie Portman is a fantastic actress. She's gorgeous. She's a beautiful woman, it's like, and she can act, especially in Black Swan. I mean, I loved her in Black Swan.
Oh yeah.
Her Academy Award-winning film, for which she has some risque parts in that, which is pretty much probably why I like it so much. But
I don't know. Over here we got Mariana Barbara. Thank you for joining us again, Mariana. She's asking, what is your take on the views for Ahsoka? Not as good. And that the rumor is that some people behind the scenes are calling for Dave Filoni's movie to be canned. That sounds bizarre. Okay, so I've seen that, Mariana, about I think it's Samba. I think so. Those numbers we saw that were not as good were only for that service. So that's not the total number of Ahsoka views. It's just Samba's numbers. So the overall number will be bigger, and I think we have to wait for the Nielsen number to get the overall number. So I think the numbers will be much better than we think they will be. I really enjoyed Ahsoka. We had a great time here on the channel. We reviewed each episode every week with Jay Shearer on the Story Geek Show. It was a lot of fun. Good show. It had issues though. I mean, there were problems with it, but we all had fun with it. And then it says here that let me see, people behind the scenes are calling for Dave Filoni's movie to be canned. That's silly. Why? I mean, everything that has come out of Lucasfilm
has been canned. It's like, why add another one onto the roster?
Well, yeah, everything has been canned. Yeah, but like Dave Filoni, For what? What, you're going to can it because like Ahsoka wasn't like gangbusters. It wasn't like maybe as successful as like season 1 of Mando or something. Like that's silly, you know. I think Dave Filoni understands Star Wars. He for the most part has been very successful over there in the Disney era, you know, with Mandalorian. I think Ahsoka, even though some of the numbers might be a little softer than they probably wanted, I still think it was a success. I mean,
I have a question for
Why
you,
would you can it?
OG. I actually have a question for you, and it kind of ties in with Mariana's question.
Yeah.
Do you think us as a society now, the way the times are with social media and how, you know, people now like watch films, that they go by the numbers of like the box office or the streaming views, and that's what is decided upon of if it makes it a good film or not? Like I remember like back in the day, like a movie could have made $15 million at the box office, but it became like a cult classic that it's just a very good movie. Can a movie just be good without it being a record-shattering box office success or like off the charts streaming numbers? I feel like that's how we became in the society. It's almost like it's only a good movie if it brings in the dough.
Right. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that turned. I mean, look, Elemental didn't do. It did okay. It had some good legs actually in theaters. It did. It kind of went on for a while, but it wasn't a huge success in theaters, you know. But I heard it's a good movie, and I heard a lot of people love it, and they've been watching on right, and they've been watching on Disney Plus. So it's a good movie, but it didn't do well in the box office. But I think you're right, George. I think a lot of people look at that smaller box office number and go, oh, see, it's not doing as good as Mario, so therefore the movie probably sucks, and that's not really fair. You know what I'm saying? Mario did very well because Mario had 40 years of fandom behind it. Elemental was an original story. It's more of a niche little market, you know, and it did pretty good for considering what it was, you know. But unfortunately, we do live in that world, George. It's very, very unfortunate. We also live in a world where, you know, Mariana's here mentioning where, you know, Ahsoka's numbers are coming in a little soft, right? Or there were issues that fans had with this thing or that thing in Ahsoka. Therefore, let's just can all of Filoni projects, or let's can his movie. It's like this knee-jerk reaction to everything. I hate that. And actually, to be honest, Kathleen Kennedy is like that too. And I hate it. I hate how she does that. It's like, oh, Colin Trevorrow, you made $1 billion on Jurassic World. Okay, we'll go ahead and give you a Star Wars movie. We'll give you Episode 9. Oh, Patty Jenkins. Oh, you did Wonder Woman, made a lot of money. Oh, we'll give you a Star Wars movie. She was constantly trend chasing and that knee-jerk kind of like reacting. You can't do that. You can't do that. So even if Ahsoka were to totally bomb, which it didn't, but let's just say hypothetically it did, Filoni still understands Star Wars. He's still a creative guy. He still knows the franchise. He studied under George Lucas. Like off of one thing, you're gonna say, nope, come on, that's silly. And that's how we are nowadays. It's like as a society, we do that. And it's like one thing, and it's like there's no forgiveness. Just get rid of them. It's ridiculous.
Well, look at Solo. The oh god, who were the guys that originally were directing that?
Lord and Miller.
Lord and Miller.
Yeah.
Like they were successful off of the Lego movie. You
Right.
know, it was like it was a commercial and it was a commercial success, and it was success with the audience. But when it came time for Solo, you know, there was a lot of creative differences. They got thrown off the project. And really, do you hear anything about them now since then? It's like, why? Because now they have that reputation. Oh, they got thrown off of a Star Wars movie. But why did they even get put in that position? Because of coming off of the Lego movie.
Yeah, it's unfair. It's unfair to creators. Now, I think they did have one big hit, the Spider-Verse. That was them.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I don't know if the new one was them though. It might have been. I'm not sure on that. But you're right though, George. Your overall point is right, where it puts these creators in an uncomfortable position because they get into these Star Wars projects because Kathleen Kennedy is trend chasing, and then they get cut from the squad because okay, she changes her mind or whatever happens, you know, and then it looks bad on them. You know, they have a black eye now, professionally, you know, so it's not fair. It's really not fair. Montgomery's Moments here says, is Disney World going to expand? Montgomery, that's an interesting question. What do you think, George? Are they going to expand? I mean, I don't know really what they mean by expand.
Right,
I mean,
because expand for especially with Walt Disney World, that can kind of go
so many directions.
so many ways. Montgomery's moments, if you can elaborate a little more on that, you talking of like another theme park, more resort hotels, the parks, but just as like a overall sense, I feel like in some odd shape or form, Walt Disney World will expand. Obviously, probably they will add more hotels. I know they're adding a lot more DVC, which I find very strange that even if they do add more hotels in DVC, like to entice people to stay on your property when you don't even have a freaking magical express anymore to go to and fro back and forth to the airport. I still don't understand that.
Ridiculous.
As far as a fifth gate, absolutely not. I don't even think that would even be in the pipeline for Walt Disney World, even like 20. Well, I can't say never with Disney, but I mean, I just don't think it's in Disney's best interest right now for a fifth gate at Walt Disney World. I see the previous 4 parks expanding,
right?
But look how long that's taking.
Yeah, well, and that's the route they should go. You worry about the current 4 parks. Maybe you can work on some resorts, and do that. That's the way to go with Disney World. I've said it so many times on channel, but I understand not everyone watches every video, so I'll repeat myself. There's only so much time families can spend on vacation. There's only so much time people can get off of work. So right now, Disney World is a week-long endeavor. And that's not even including all the Universal shit, okay? And theme park wizard, I'm sorry I said Universal shit. I don't mean literally, okay? I don't mean literally. But that's not even including the Universal stuff, right? So you're talking about a week and a half to get all this stuff done, right? It's a lot. So now you're going to add a 5th park to Disney World? So how many days can families do? Well, what they're going to do is they're not going to take more days. They're just going to start cutting things from the roster. So they're just going to say, well, you know what? Hollywood Studios isn't that great. We'll just skip that one and we'll do the new one. And they'll just replace it. And they're staying the same amount of days, but now they're just cutting one park out, right? That's what's probably going to happen if they add a 5th gate. So it's not a good idea to do that. Yeah, George, you're absolutely right. Work on the parks you have now. Expand those parks plus those parks. Get them really top-notch, running on all cylinders. And I think that's the way to go. And I think in that way, I think Disney World will expand 100%. 5th gate, though, probably not, maybe never. I mean, to be quite honest with you, I think George is right on that. Next question, Mr. McBeebe. Mr. McBeebe says, what would you guys like to see become the 3rd gate in California? I personally would like to see a World Showcase Park. Mr. McBeebe, we just talked about that. That's exactly what we want it to be. Westcott Center, a World Showcase Park. He goes, imagine the 9 pavilions at Epcot, each built like New Orleans Square. Yeah, I'm telling you, that World Showcase Park, whether it's Westcott or whether they call it something else, would be like they would make a mint on that, And with the drinking around the world stuff, like I said earlier, with the locals and the key holders, come on, Disney.
And they would have all the festivals that Walt Disney World holds. They could do the Festival of the Arts. They can do Food and Wine. They could do Flower and Garden. They could do like that eat to the beat type of thing.
That's great. That's great. Now, Mark here, it looks like we have a fellow Italian. All right, a little fellow Italian.
Fellow Italiano.
Mr. Mark Montori here says, just saying hi to my fellow Italians. I am an 80s baby also. The 80s babies, Mark. The 80s, I just want to say real quick, the 80s were a fantastic time to be a kid, man. We had the best cartoons ever. We had He-Man, Thundercats, Voltron, Transformers. I even liked Care Bears and stuff. I know. I messed with the Care Bears. I like those. We had DuckTales. It's like, it was just the best decade to be a kid.
And I have to say, for me, because obviously the 90s were the best decade for me, but I can still understand the 80s because I still watch a lot of 80s stuff. And if I couldn't have been a 90s baby, I definitely would have wanted to be an 80s baby. The 80s and the 90s, I'm sorry. Because the 90s, they gave us that, like with a Goofy movie, and it was just that quintessential, where both of our generations, we had the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Oh, it was great. Now it says here, any favorite 80s movies? I have a lot of favorite 80s movies.
Wow.
Little Mermaid, actually. I love Little Mermaid. Not only for the movie itself, but for what it did for Disney in general and animation. I love that. Back to the Future. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh, of course. Okay.
What else? Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, finish it because I have a little bit of a list myself, but I want to hear yours so that way I could just scratch those ones off.
I even like Sweet 16, like with Molly Ringwald.
Yes,
You know, those kind of
nice.
movies. The
Yeah.
80s, which is great for music,
Yeah.
cartoons, all of it. But what about you, George?
And I'm sorry, which being that you said Sweet 16, and for all of you, I'm just going to quote this movie. I love the beginning scene where they're all just kind of busy doing their own thing, and she just like pauses. She's like, "I can't believe they forgot my fucking birthday." Like that was like it was like perfect.
It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
So for me, aside from OG's choices, I mean, Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Little Mermaid, I loved Stand By Me. I thought was a great coming of age film. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I actually
Nice.
enjoyed that. Like
That's a good
that was like the 80s American Pie type of raunchy.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed The Breakfast Club.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, pretty much anything of John Hughes. Like I loved, you know, as you had said, 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Uncle Buck. You know, I loved like all of the John Hughes films.
Yeah, John Hughes was a genius, absolute genius. So yeah, the 80s were a good time. Good time for movies, good time for cartoons, good time for music, everything. It was fantastic. Now, our good friend here, Sam Chat, favorite non-theme park destination. That's interesting. What do you think, George? What's on your mind with this one? Favorite non-theme park destination. You know, it's tough for me because it's like I have a hard time like rating stuff, you know? Like for me, I just like to try new things. And I'll go to like the Del Coronado in San Diego, right? I would love to stay there and check that out. We did years ago, but I would love to do that again. Things like that I think are really, really fun. Recently back in April, we did a road trip to the Bay Area. And we went up there and we did the Walt Disney Family Museum and we did the Golden Gate Bridge, all that stuff. Had a blast. Now I know technically Disney Family Museum, Disney still, but it wasn't a theme park though. It wasn't a theme park.
And that's what I was going to ask. Like when a non-theme park tourist destination, like it could still be the same state that holds the theme parks. Because if that's the case, it would actually have to be California.
Oh,
because I got a little taste of California outside of Disneyland and even Universal Hollywood and Knott's Berry Farm, where I got to see LA and I got to see different points of Orange County that I never thought that I would be experiencing, and it made me have a greater appreciation for California more than just on the outer bounds of Disneyland.
Yeah. There's more to life than theme parks. And that's why here on the channel, even, we don't just focus on the parks, like we dip into a lot. We have the show with Jay Shear, Story Geeks, where we talk about movies and streaming. We'll get into that stuff. Like we talk about, I've even done videos on Elon Musk and Twitter, variety is the spice of life. I love theme parks. I love the Disney parks, but I don't want to just be that and that only. Whether it's in video form with content for you guys, or if it's in my personal life, actually last night we went to a thing over in, I think it was like Pasadena. I don't remember the city name, but it's called Carved. And it's like a nighttime pumpkin festival. And it was like almost like a Halloween Horror Nights, but for like kids and families. And they would light up the trees. They'd have like the pumpkins that were decorated and carved out like Spider-Man and Batman and stuff. And it was really, really fun. And little events like that, I think, are really cool.
So what you're saying is, rather than have like Jason, Michael, or Chucky jump out at them, they've been chased off by Barney and the Teletubbies.
Yeah, exactly, the Teletubbies. Which, by the way, the son in that show, in the intro, that the little baby. Mm-hmm. She's like 27 or 28 now. She's having a baby. It was on the news the other day.
That's crazy.
Isn't that weird?
That's weird.
That's
God,
so
now I feel old.
I know, right? I know. So our friend BJ Vincent here says, how do you feel about director Guillermo del Toro revealing he almost made a Star Wars film about the rise and fall of Jabba the Hutt? I feel this would have been incredible. It would have been absolutely amazing.
It would have been amazing. Guillermo del Toro, I mean, like, his films are so complex and so rich in detail that I
Dude.
feel like that if he would have done a Star Wars film, especially a bot job of the Hutt, I think he would have killed it.
He would have killed. He would have crushed. And this is why I am so pro, like fresh eyes at Lucasfilm. Like I feel like Kennedy can't really keep the talent in how. Like we have so many issues with this. Like how do you lose Guillermo del Toro? How do you lose like that? You oh my god!
And if I could actually be a little bit bold here, and I know that they were kind of going back to Solo. And don't get me wrong, folks, I love Ron Howard. He is a phenomenal director in his own right, especially when he directed, he did like A Beautiful Mind, he did Apollo 13, he did Parenthood, even to the How the Grinch Stole Christmas. You know, he has a roster of directorial films under his belt, and nothing to him. But when it comes time for a film like Star Wars, if you had to pick and choose between Ron Howard or Del Toro, I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just she drops the ball so much with this talent, and you could have had a Del Toro Star Wars movie. You know how freaking amazing that would have been? God, I get so mad sometimes with this stuff. Love Low here says, how would you feel if Disney bought a toy company like Hasbro? For me, I think the toy industry in general is on the decline. Actually, a good person to follow, I will say this, a good person to follow both on Twitter and on YouTube is That Junk Man. He's really knowledgeable. He used to actually work at Hasbro. He's really, really knowledgeable about the ins and outs of toy companies, and especially Hasbro and its relationship with like Star Wars and things like that. But I think overall physical toys, I think kids, we live in a different time. And kids are on their iPads now,
Yeah.
Toys, they sell mostly now for adult nerds more than anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
Don't get me wrong. Like when I grew up, like in the 90s, I used to kill for like the action figures and the collectibles and the PVC figures and what have you. Oh man, like I had like I had bins upon bins of those things. Like I could have opened up my own store like with all that stuff, but unfortunately I don't have that stuff anymore. But I did give all my stuff to not to pat myself on the back, a good worthy cause. I gave it up to a donation for a children's hospital for which they didn't have anything. So I gave all my collectibles and figurines off to them.
Great. That's fantastic. Friend of the channel, Retro Nerd Girl. Hey guys, so glad I caught this live. Yeah, Retro, thank you for joining us. Now we talked a little bit earlier about 80s movies and retro stuff. Hey, Retro Nerd Girl is who you want to check out her channel if you're into anything old school like 80s movies and older content like that. She's amazing. A friend of the channel. We love Retro. Thank you so much for joining us. And we got Jeff Montero. What are your thoughts on bringing back the older Disneyland, Tomorrowland, and maybe some older rides, and calling the land Yesterdayland? That's interesting, Jeff. So basically, make a land where you kind of like put in
like the rich nostalgic type,
like the extinct attractions and things like that.
That's what
I don't know. For me, that feels very. I got to be 100% honest. That feels very like opposite of what what Walt kind of wanted for these parks, where I think Walt was very much like forward. And I don't mean just with Tomorrowland. I mean with technology for even things like Pirates and Fantasyland or whatever it was. He wanted to move forward. And I think a land based on stuff from like decades ago, it just feels wrong. I think Disneyland should be pushing boundaries and not constantly looking in its rear view. That's just me. But now I wouldn't be.
Let me ask you this, OG. What if they took Yesterland, they took the old kind of concept, but they would update it into a today's time? So you're taking the original initial concept of what the old attraction is.
Right.
And kind of sort of like what they're doing with the test track. They're kind of adding, like they're paying homage to World of Motion, but it's not necessarily World of Motion per se.
I'd be down for that. Look, if we get the People Mover back at Tomorrowland over at Disneyland, right? If we get the People Mover back, but it's with updated technology and it's a new version of that concept, hey, that's freaking awesome. I think that's what everyone kind of wants, right? And that's fine. That's progress, So I support stuff like that. Yeah, but just bringing stuff back from the dead, basically. Nah, I don't know. I mean, and you also have to remember too, Jeff. These attractions are gone for a reason. Like they probably weren't.
Pretty good picture, and I don't like doing it.
They probably are gone. A lot of them because they weren't really popular when they were here.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, folks, that was my horrible rendition of Robin Williams' Genie when he was talking to Aladdin about the 3 rules of what not to wish for. So
there we go. Rest in peace, Robin. We miss you. Absolutely. Kiki and Luca, the third park is going to be tiny. Galaxy's Edge could have increased the acreage of it and created more balance. Now, here's where I disagree, Kiki and Luca.
And before you continue, because I just read Kiki and Luca's message right now. They said, love you guys in the show. Gotta run. Going to catch a flight to Vegas to see NASCAR and you two. So I just wanted to just, in case that they're on their way out, but I just wanted to just throw that in there.
Safe travels, Kiki and Luca. Yes. Have fun over in Vegas.
But we're still going to answer your question here.
We're still going to answer your question, and then we're gonna log out and we're gonna go with you to Vegas. We're gonna we're gonna party over there. no, but Kiki and Luca, thank you so much for the comment. Here's the thing: the Toy Story lot, and I did this on Google, so I know it's. I know the actual acreage of the Toy Story lot. It's 75 acres. Which is actually to almost the acre is almost the same exact size of DCA minus the Grand Californian Hotel. So they could build a DCA sized park over there in the Toy Story lot. So, it wouldn't be that tiny. I mean, I guess DCA people consider it tiny. DCA's problem isn't so much the acreage. The acreage is there for a decent park. DCA's problem was when they built that park, the layout was really, really wonky and it makes the park feel smaller. So if you had tighter spaces, like everything at DCA was so wide open, you could see everything. So the park felt very small. But if you bring things in a little bit and have more narrow walkways and taller buildings and kind of have to meander through things, it would feel a lot bigger. So if you take better designs and layouts and apply it to a new park over there in the Toy Story lot, you can make better use of those 75 acres than they did with DCA. What do you think, George?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like the acreage that they have over at the Toy Story parking lot would be perfect for a third gate, especially if, just starting out with a newer type park. I think it'll fit in well because even if it is, DCA is not the biggest park, but I mean, like if you have a third park tied to that and you kind of combine all 3 parks together, you still have like one big massive resort, and right. What have you. And sometimes, size doesn't always matter, I mean, the 4, out of all retrospect, that is, but I mean, like, but like with Walt Disney World's theme parks, I mean, they're acres upon acres and they still need more to put in there. They still have to extend the day out for the guests. It's like Animal Kingdom, beautiful park. It's one of the, if not one of my top 2, well, yeah, it is my top 2, Disneyland and then Animal Kingdom as my favorite Disney parks. But when it comes to actually having attractions and activities in the park, they need to add more for a 500-acre park.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. So you can have a lot of room. It's a lot more walking, but not necessarily more to do, Now, Lord Jonathan here says, what are your thoughts on the old Seas Pavilion coming back, or you like Nemo version better? I don't think I went on the Nemo thing when I was there in July.
You didn't? I thought you went with Mindy.
We went and we saw the.
You just did the aquarium. Right?
Yeah, we didn't go on the actual. But what I heard. You're in a clamshell. It's basically the submarine voyage out here.
It's basically the It's basically if the Little Mermaid, the Little Mermaid's Undersea Adventure, and the submarines had a love child. Basically. That's
it. Okay. So what are your thoughts on old Seas Pavilion coming back? I think it's cool. I mean, I think that, look, a lot of fans bitch and moan about all the IP, and Disney's removing an IP right there.
So now what the hell were they griping about now? It's like,
I mean, and with the whole Test Track thing, they're not doing an IP. They're theming it towards Horizons, right?
Yeah. But be careful. Wait. What was the
The
question?
the test track
World of
recame.
Motion. World of Motion.
I'm sorry, World of Motion.
Yeah.
So it's not an IP, So they're
Right.
trying, but again, no one's gonna give them credit because Big
Yeah.
Mouth's bad.
Yeah.
Retro Nerd Girl, again here it says Planet of the Apes I'm in, and she's referring to like a Planet of the Apes land in the theme parks, which I'm telling you that would be so dope. And your idea, George, about it going into Animal Kingdom, that's the money right there.
I think that'd be killer.
That would be absolutely killer. And Mr. McBeebe, bringing back the great movie ride to the Hollywood backlot in DCA could make good use of the Fox property. Ooh, that's a good one. I like that. You could do that.
I agree with you. Just bring back the great movie ride. I miss that ride so badly.
I know. That would be fantastic over there at DCA. There were rumors that we were going to get that years and years ago, but never panned out. And I'm really surprised they actually got rid of it at Hollywood Studios because how obsessed Disney is with IP, you would think they'd want to ride like that where they can constantly swap out.
They can constantly swap out. That's what I never understood. Yes, it was an outdated attraction. Did it need change? Abso-freaking-lutely. But yeah, and especially with the Fox acquisition, oh my God, they could have done anything with that ride.
I know.
They still could have done Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. But in a sense, I still don't get it at Hollywood Studios. I get it in Toontown because it's in Disneyland, but I don't get Runaway Railway at Hollywood Studios. I get it. It's like it's the premiere of the show, going to the Grauman's Chinese Theater, but I don't know. It doesn't mesh well with me there.
It's interesting. Yeah, it felt weird, a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Christian S here says, move Star Tours and Galaxy's Edge. Okay, I'm with you on that. I'm OCD. So when you have a Star Wars land and then you have this like outside ride over here,
OG starts twitching.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, that drives me freaking nuts. So yes, please, Christian, do that. And then Astro Blasters in Pixar Pier. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. And then bring back Adventures Through Inner Space and Circle Vision Theater. Hey, your ideas are all fantastic. But realistically, the last two will probably never happen just because
Exactly. My only thing with Astro Blasters going into Pixar Pier is it would be great, but then you're going to be tying it with Toy Story Mania.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So you're essentially having two Toy Story
shooter rides,
for which with Toy Story Mania, and I get they need something in Tomorrowland, but I mean Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters is so outdated. It is like it needs like a big fixer upper, and I don't know if they should try to like remove that, keep the kind of ride system or something, but do something with like a different IP or something completely different. I
hate how you can't see your laser. That's the worst part.
Yeah, you don't know what the hell you're aiming at.
Right, and that's the issue I have with Web Slingers is that I don't know which one is mine. Although we did have a great time with Jackie, our tour guide.
Of course,
the best CM of all time.
Absolutely,
got to give her a shout out.
As I said, after that, I do have a better appreciation for Web Slingers because that wasn't even in like my top 10 contenders.
Yeah, she made it really fun. She really did. Mr. Andrew Kellogg.
And I'm sorry, really quick. From the previous, I knew there was something else. And also, too, to add over to Pixar Pier is I know at the time they didn't have it, but Monsters Inc. Mike and Sully to the rescue. That they have it over there at the Hollywood land.
Right.
So you have one Pixar IP over there, and then you have Pixar Pier. So if there's a way that they can kind of, because I actually enjoy Mike and Sully's. It's a great dark ride.
It's a cute one.
But it's in a very weird position, like inside the park itself.
Weird spot. I don't like the facade. It's cheap,
Yeah.
I think they could do much better. I think Tokyo, they actually have like the monsters like building, from the movie.
Yeah, like the actual factory.
Yeah, like something like that would be cool. We just got this
Give
weird
it the
one.
Tokyo.
Every single time, dude. They're like an advanced civilization over there. Like they make us look bad. It's like they do everything better. It's like God. Andrew Kellogg here says, "Have you heard or watched of Martians Smith videos?" Unfortunately, Andrew, I don't know what that is. I've never seen that. Have you seen that, George?
No, I've never seen it before.
I'm not familiar with it. I'm sorry, man. Trey Porter, Loki season 2, episode 2 was good. Finally, a return to good Marvel. I've heard really good things about Loki season 2. I haven't seen episode 1 or episode 2, but I've heard amazing things about it. I'm gonna dig into it.
It is on my list. I didn't get a chance to. I'm actually very curious about it myself. However, I will say I'm not a fan of the Loki outfit that they added to to the parks. Like it basically looks like Loki dressed as like a business owner or something. He was walking around. I believe it was in Disneyland Paris. I believe he was walking around, and nobody even recognized him as a walk around character because they thought it was literally someone in a business suit.
That's
And
funny.
it just kind of like threw me off. It just didn't remind me of Loki. Like I think of Loki as the god of mischief, with the horns and the cape and the staff, and it's like that's how I want to see Loki.
Yeah, I know. I mean, a few months ago, they had Mantis at DCA, and I don't know why. I think Mantis is so hot. Isn't that weird?
Well, of
Like,
course you would. Because it's like,
even with the little thing, I'm like, wow, she's attractive,
Yeah.
Like, whoa. But yeah, no, Trey, I haven't seen it yet. But we are we are planning on it, and maybe we'll do a show on it. Maybe if we watch it, we'll do like maybe on Story Geeks or something. We'll see. We'll talk to Jay about it. I don't even know.
Speaking of which, Jay Shear is in the house.
Is he? Jay's in the house? Awesome, Jay. BJ Vincent here says, seeing how Disney lost the rights to the Kuka Arm, which is basically the Harry Potter Forbidden Journey ride system, the ride system that I hate because I feel claustrophobic, that one, that was originally in Interventions in Epcot. Do you feel that Disney could get around the patent rights by using another robotic? Oh, yeah, they can get around that stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of loopholes they could work around if they want to. And the question is, do they want to? I don't know, but they should look into that. I'm sure there's a way to do it, though, if they want to. What do you think, George?
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a lot of loopholes that Disney can get around to with just the tiniest tweak, the tiniest change. It can just get them to have that type of ride vehicle or ride system. And even to where, like, if they wanted to use something from Tokyo, I know that they have contract obligations that they have to wait. I can't remember if it's 5 or 10 years or something, but it's like eventually they could still get around that loophole that maybe they can not do the same exact replica, but alter something. Right. So yeah, with Disney, anything's possible. They could do anything they set their minds to.
Absolutely. And Trey Porter here said, remember Mask? I do remember Mask. I used to love that show.
I do too.
That was a great show, man. I'm telling you, 80s were the GOAT when it comes to these cartoons. I mean, they were just, and do you remember, Trey, do you remember Silverhawks? We had Silverhawks, He-Man, the real Ghostbusters, just, God, the list goes on and on and on. A great time to be alive.
I wasn't an 80s kid, but I still watched all that shit. Like, I watched more, I think 80s stuff, like, more into the 90s, and then I watched more 90s stuff into the 2000s.
Right? Yeah, I know. The 80s were great. 90s were good, too, though. 90s were, like, the 90s, to me, were, like, the decade of, like, the Disney afternoon,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was that. For me, as, like, I was like, preteen in that time period, I think. So it was like I was still into like DuckTales, Tailspin, and Darkwing. That's the 90s. Disney kind of took over,
And then also Gummy Bears. But see, I have to stay off of Gummy Bears because then I start humming the theme song, and it's like then it's stuck in my head.
Bouncing here and there and everywhere. I know. It's so hard to get it out of your head once you sing it. BJ Vincent here says, yes, the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s had some incredible TV shows, movies, music, and cartoons. They absolutely did.
I agree.
It was really, really cool. Okay, so we have this one right here from Mr. McBeevy. Hypothetical scenario, because I like dreaming big. Good. True Disney fan. Dreaming big. Angels build a new stadium somewhere. Anaheim builds a new convention center. Okay, so that's interesting. So I think what he's trying to say here is like moving the current convention center, right, somewhere else, and the Angel Stadium somewhere else. Now, if they do that, Mr. McBeevy, we're talking like multiple parks because the convention center land is big. If you look at Google Maps, I don't know how many acres that is. That's huge. The Anaheim Stadium area is also big.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood it. Is he saying move both, or is he saying take the Angel Stadium out
and put a
new convention center there, and then move the old one out?
Oh, okay, that might be what he's saying. Okay, well that works too. If you take the convention center and you move it to where Angel Stadium is now, then you have a huge plot of land right there, right next to DCA. I mean, that would be perfect.
Either way, I think that's a brilliant move. Whether they did choice A or choice B.
Yeah, no, either one. And Mr. McBeevy, thank you so much for the $1.99 donation. We do appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much. Matthew Murr says, actually, no. One last question. I love
Of
Matthew,
course.
man.
Yeah, of
I love
course.
you, Matthew. You're so funny, dude. What would you and George do if, God forbid, you were ever elected CEO and chairman and president CEO of the company? I like how he says God forbid.
God forbid. Like we're gonna like it's like God forbid the two Italianos running the Walt
Yeah.
Disney Company.
God forbid these two take over. No, I know what he means. I think
Yeah, I know what he is. We're joking with you, brother.
Yeah,
It's fun.
it's a daunting task to be running this company right now. Just ask
boy.
Bob Iger.
Let's
But
see.
but you let me see. What would you and George do? God, that's a loaded question, man. Well, first thing I would do, I would replace Kathleen Kennedy. Like I said earlier in the show, I think that Lucasfilm needs a new leader, so I would do that for sure. I would finally like green light something at Walt Disney World instead of this blue sky, what if maybe kind of sort of stuff. I would get serious, and it seems like they already are, to be honest, at Disneyland of expanding. So they keep what you're doing over there. Yeah, I mean, with the content side, I think they really have to kind of take a step back. I think Marvel kind of lost its way a little bit.
This is gonna sound kind of harsh, but I don't care. So I would more so like hit like the reset button. I think honestly there would have to be like a lot of people that I would say to kind of bring in fresh new people to kind of shake things up. And honestly, the first person that I would start with would be tomorrow. I'm sorry.
Daddy
I'm sorry.
Josh?
Yeah.
But how's he going to afford his hair product if he doesn't have a nice cushy job over at Disney, George? That's cold, man.
I know. But I mean, he can, I don't know, maybe he can go over to Universal or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But
you can have him, Universal. You can have him.
And also, as you said, Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah.
I would offer actually a dual presidential position to Filoni and Favreau to take over Lucasfilm.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think just kind of change up the strategy of getting more creatives back into the company and really start shaking things up, and rather than just talk about it, but actually get something done.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk, and it's too slow. Way too slow. And here's one thing. I talk a lot of crap about Universal, it's kind of funny. But like but I do feel like they're a leaner, quicker company when it comes to decision making and building and doing stuff.
And that's where I feel like Tomorrow would excel in that, because I think he would get a major wake-up call. Because if he was to go over there, he'd be like, it's so fast-paced. It's like, okay, we're doing this, this, and this. And then the next day, they already break ground and pouring pavement down on the thing. And he's like, whoa. Like, it took me that 24 hours just to comb my hair to the perfect style. It's
he's he's
sorry.
not right for Disney. I don't know if it's the culture.
And he could
or
be
what.
a great guy. I know I pick on him a lot, and he could be a great guy in real life, but he's a crappy chairman of parks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's not good. And we got Jay Shear in the house. Jay Shear in the house. Jay Shear is the host of the Story Geek Show here on the channel. We just got done reviewing the whole season of Ahsoka. Check it out on the channel. We're planning a big video coming up very soon on there about Pixar. That's coming up very soon. So, Jay, thank you for joining, brother. We appreciate you.
Which I actually realized, because we had to reschedule that, we're actually going to be recording that on the anniversary of the Disney 100.
That is very true. That is very, very true. Yeah, it's a big day, huh?
Big day.
Very interesting to see what happens that day. Any surprises from Disney? We'll see.
We'll see.
So Mr. McBeevy here says, last question for me. Angels move and Anaheim builds a new convention center at the old stadium next to OC Vibe. The site of the old convention center becomes Disney's. Is this a possible scenario? Okay, so we kind of answered that already.
Yeah.
That's where he's saying, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think he was more so just like reiterating how he was. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And then Jay Shear says, spicy question. Would you put any park above any of the Disney parks? Meaning Disneyland, DCA, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, Epcot, Magic Kingdom. Are any competitor parks better than those in your mind? Ooh.
Nope.
No. No, not even, because I haven't been to the Universal Orlando parks.
They're great. Universal they do have great parks. They're very entertaining. I am a thrill junkie. I do love me some good coasters, and
Yeah.
Universal Orlando, Knott's Berry Farm, they got great coasters and everything, but it's just something about Disney. It harkens back to my childhood, and it's just like it's something where it is so unique of how one man born in 1901
Right.
started out from nothing. I mean, he had like the all-American dream, and to not even just be successful as a producer, writer, director, but also to own your own studio that covered animation, live action, television,
Theme park.
document series, then went into music and then into theme parks. I mean, like, where have you ever really seen anything like that ever? And will we ever see that again? I seriously doubt. It's like it's such a unique tale. It's a tale as old as time.
Yeah.
And no pun intended. But not even just with that. I think just we all have something that interconnects us back to Disney. And as
Right.
much as we could say that I'm a Universal fan, or I'm a Harry Potter fan, or I love Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, which I do. I'm a huge fan of those.
Right.
But there's just something about Disney of what Walt did with it and the foundation that he laid, that no matter how the company is in shambles right now and how much that I could be angry at who is running it right now, it still goes back to the original person that actually brought it to this point.
Yeah, and that's going to be really tough for, at least for people like us, right? Because any company big enough can write a check for a fancy theme park, but you're never going to be able to duplicate that Walt factor, And I know a lot of normies don't give a shit. Let's be honest. A lot of normies don't care about this. We're nerds, so we care. But for us, you can't duplicate that. Comcast has deep pocketbooks, and they can write a check and they can make a fancy theme park. Warner Brothers, I'm sure they can do the same too. It just doesn't feel the same though. But now, specifically to Jay's question.
But let's not forget, we got to give Universal credit. They did make an attraction based off of Jimmy Fallon.
They did, and that takes talent. I don't know how the fuck they figured that one out, but they did it. I don't know if it's any good or not, but yeah. But here's the thing, okay? Because he's saying any of these parks. I haven't been to the Universal parks in Orlando. I am just not. I'm kind of like it. I'm in the air with DCA and like Islands of Adventure. Like I feel like there could be some major competition for me personally with
that.
Those
would
two.
actually be very, and that's fair because I wouldn't expect you to kind of give your full on opinion on it because you have to actually experience it yourself. Those two in particular. Now I'm curious. See, now I have to get you to IOA because now I need to see your opinion between the two.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think that there might be, because that park. Look, and our buddy Showcase, who's in the chat right now, actually sent me pictures this morning of the entryway for Island of Adventure on Twitter. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm like, man, that looks really cool. I could see that park giving DCA a run for its money. Now, look, when we actually go, it could be a whole different thing. Remember, I was predicting Epcot was going to be my favorite. It turned out to be Animal Kingdom. Mm-hmm. It was close, but Animal Kingdom still squeaked it out, So my opinion might change when I get over there, but we'll see. Great question, Jay. Absolutely fantastic. Mr. McBeebe with another super chat. Thank you so much, Mr. McBeebe, $4.99. Sorry, I prematurely sent my question in early with typos twice. Typing on my phone has two different send buttons. Sent it properly later. Yeah, don't even worry, Mr. McBeebe. We understood what your question meant, and it was a great one. Actually, I would like to even we should do a video, George, where we really dive into the possibilities. Look at the map of every option available to Disney.
Like bring up like a Google Earth,
right?
Google Map or something like that.
Right. What if they took over Angel Stadium, or what if they moved the convention center and just really map that shit out, dude? It would be a lot of fun. Because McBeebe, your question was fantastic. So, but yeah, thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we got a question here from Showcase of Wishes. Okay, here we go.
Gosh, here we go.
Do you think Splash Mountain is the gold standard? See, this is funny. There are people getting canceled. I'm not gonna say names, but there are people getting canceled right now over their opinions on Splash Mountain right now. It is crazy out there. But there was a tweet today from a friend. It was basically saying no, Splash Mountain is not the gold standard. Now, do I think it's the gold standard? I don't know, man. I mean, in terms of log flume rides, I don't know. I mean, what do you think, George? Do you think it's think it's the top?
I can't, as much as I absolutely loved Splash Mountain. You know, I will have to admit I did enjoy the ride, despite of how people are sensitive about the overall storyline of what it approaches to, or what have it not. But
right.
As far as the attraction itself, it was a ride that I grew up with as a child. I have a lot of great memories with it. Zippity Doodah, I'm sorry, folks, it's still part of the Disney songbook for me. It's like when I think of the Disney parks, Zippity Doodah was the anthem of the parks. I loved, especially it really tells that I'm a 90s kid, the Splash Mountain rap.
Oh, dude, that was so good. You know what? I gotta clip that, and I gotta see if we can play that on here without any copyright issues. Because man, that would be so good.
That was so dope. But as a gold standard, I don't know. Like, it might have been the gold standard at the time. I do think that the overall aesthetics of the mountain, of how it was built, I think was really cool. I love the fact of how many pieces of animatronics that were in there and like that. But as far as a whole cohesive based off, I can't see that being as a high end marquee.
Well,
face of you know what I mean. I'm trying to figure out how to.
In terms of log flume rides, I haven't really been on a whole lot of log flume rides either. I've only been at the one.
Well, I have. It is actually the best of the log flume rides that I've been on.
So I guess on that end of it, it's the gold standard for log flume rides, I guess, because it had great music, it had a lot of animatronics. Okay, cool. In terms of Disney attractions overall, though, I don't think so. At least Disneyland's version. A lot of our animatronics weren't that great. We had a lot of these. A lot of the animatronics at Disneyland look like just stuffed animals.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Disneyland's Brer Fox looked wonky.
It did, right? So that's why too, Showcase is a Florida person. He's in Orlando. So I heard your version of that attraction was way better.
It was.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard for me to answer because ours wasn't on that same level. I wasn't as impressed, I don't think that I don't think the visuals in that attraction are completely untoppable. I think with the right animatronics and the right technology, I think the Tiana thing can surpass it aesthetically. The music and all that stuff, we'll see how that goes against the old ride.
It could still kind of go, back and forth with that notion because again, we can't really give our full opinion on it. Just as we were saying, you couldn't give your full opinion on, is Islands of Adventure better than any of the Disney parks? Why? Because you haven't experienced it yet.
Right.
So we can't really we can kind of give an assumption opinion on it.
Like a pre-opinion.
Exactly. But we can't really give a full opinion until we experience it ourselves. I will say the little piece of the Lewis the alligator animatronic that they showed us at Destination D, that looked pretty cool, especially the size and scope of that thing.
Oh yeah, that I was just to say the size of it was impressive. So we'll see. I was actually watching Tom Corliss earlier today, and he was talking about the Tiana, the mural, and all that. And he was saying that he thinks overall, he thinks they're going to do a good job on the attraction because Disney understands there's a lot riding on this, but he is worried about kind of overproducing, overtelling the story. And we've said that a lot here on the channel. Yeah. Disney, keep it simple with the storyline. Don't get too in the weeds with this shit. Keep it really we'll see. But I think Tom had a good point with that. But there's a lot of potential with Tiana, though, I think, in that space, if done right. It's all about the execution.
And with Tiana, I hope that they give us the type of audio animatronics that they did with Belle in the Enchanted Beauty and the Beast over at Tokyo and the Frozen over at Hong Kong, where it's the actual face. I don't want to see the LED facial. I can't deal with that.
Yeah. Since we're talking like 80s stuff today, I had to give a shout out to Glowworm because he is another fixture of the 80s, you know. I used to have one of those, man. Those were great. You probably don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about, Hunter. You're like so young, you know. Jay here says, I agree with George. All the Disney parks are better to me personally, but unlike George, I'm not a thrill junkie. See, Jay, you and I would do fantastic in the parks together, brother. We wouldn't go on any of the scary shit. Like I'm the same way, dude. I don't go on a lot of this thrill stuff, you know.
And that's where I feel I think you'll enjoy Islands of Adventure, but I feel like there would be a piece of it where it's like after so much time, it's like, okay, well, you're not going to do Velocicoaster. You're not going to do Hulk. You know, you're not going to, you'll do Spider-Man,
Yeah.
You'll do, Seuss Landing, and I'm not just saying it as a joke. I think Seuss Landing is actually really cool. I had more fun in that land, believe it or not, than I thought I would. With the Skyway trolley and what the hell, the Cat in the Hat dark ride. The Cat in the Hat dark ride is what Disney needs to get back into because that thing is like a lengthy, almost like a classic dark lighted ride, and it was like phenomenal. But Showcase now with Hagrid's, I think you could be able to handle Hagrid's. I don't think you did the Incredicoaster,
What I did Everest too. I mean, that's pretty...
yeah. If you could do those two, you should be able to do Hagrid's.
It was just Cosmic Rewind because the way they turn you guys, at home, you guys know the goat trick at Disneyland Big Thunder, where you have your head turned going down the hill and you slowly turn your head back around and you really feel the G-forces because you're turning your head at the same time. That's pretty much Cosmic Rewind, like the entire...
That is a great interpretation of it. I didn't really compare the two, but now that you say that's
what it is the whole time. And I was like physically can't handle it. It was too much at once, I Everest was fine for me. That wasn't too bad at all. So
like I learned my lesson by taking him to Walt Disney World because I didn't I was trying to figure out where his threshold was, and again with me, I'm so freaking I can't tell because to me Cosmic Rewind is like nothing compared to some of the shit that I've been on. But like for OG, like okay, that was like I love his thing. Is like here's his bar, and then 50 yards over is Cosmic Rewind.
Yeah, just keep going. That's Cosmic Rewind. And I think our friend Mindy was the same way. She was like, God.
Yeah, she was like, no.
Crazy.
She was like, you guys, we pulled into the station. She was like, nope, that's it. I'm done.
Nope. Jay Shear here says, Islands of Adventure is dope, but does it get to DCA levels? It does not, OG. It does not. We can't be friends if you choose that. That's interesting. That's very surprising. Yeah, that's surprising.
And I actually agree with him. I agree. Not the notion of that we can't be friends if you choose that, but I mean, like I agree with him. I still would pick DCA as much as DCA needs still a lot more work and a lot more identity, and for an expansion, I still would pick DCA over IOA.
That's
and I'm not saying that being biased. It's just
well, and here's the thing too. It's interesting, right? Jay is not a thrill guy. He's not a thrill guy. And Jay, you made this point to me before, Jay, and I think it's brilliant. When people say Universal is a great value, it's only a great value if you're into thrill rides.
Take your 3-year-old. We'll see how much of a great value it is because I can speak on that because I attempted to do it. I was taking my son at 4 years old over to Universal. We stood in line to buy tickets. The team member told me literally almost to leave. They said, please save your money. They said there is literally nothing for your son to do except for Seuss Landing.
So that's the thing, right? So if you're like a guy like our friend Wizard, Theme Park Wizard, right? He's a young guy. He loves the fast rides, all that stuff. Then Universal is an excellent value for a person like him, a guy like him. Anyone who's young into that stuff, oh man, it's a value. A guy like me, I don't go on roller coasters. I don't want to be shot up in the air and all that stuff. Jay Shear doesn't want to be shot up in the air and thrown around. What do we do? So is it worth the price? It's iffier in that equation. Is your grandma going to be able to go on anything? Probably not much. Grandma's not going on Velocicoaster. That's for damn sure, and your little kid, and stuff like that. So value is very much on a case by case basis. But for me personally, it's kind of expensive for not a whole lot of rides.
And that's just it. It's like in your mind, you want to experience Islands of Adventure because you're curious, you know. And I still say you should experience it so you could have a full on opinion. But then when like push comes to shove, and you have to pull out your credit card to purchase that ticket, and then you're kind of like, oh man, I could be doing so much more with this. It's like, do I really want to do it?
So much more with it. Where would you spend that money, George? Where would you spend that money? I'm very curious. No, but you know, here's the thing too, is that sometimes these places surprise you though, to be fair, right? Like Knott's, I kind of had the same impression of Knott's because it's a lot of thrill rides, a lot of coasters. And I'm like, oh gosh, you know, is it going to be an issue for me because there's not a whole lot of dark rides there at all. But the atmosphere at Knott's made up for it. I really went on a couple of rides over there, but it was worth it for me because of the atmosphere and the food. So it's possible I get into Universal, and even though I don't ride on Hulk and Doctor Doom and all the other crazy coasters, maybe the atmosphere will be enough for me. We'll see. I'm going to give it a chance, though. I'm a person who will always try something at least once.
I think you would really enjoy the Bourne stunt show.
Yeah.
That thing was phenomenal.
Absolutely. Andrew Kellogg here says, I mean, have you guys heard or seen any Martin Smith videos? I haven't, but you know what? I will check it out. Actually, Andrew, if you can, if you want to email it to me, orangegrove55@gmail.com. Email me a Martin Smith video and I will check it out.
Yeah.
I will definitely check it out. I'm curious. You got me, my interest piqued. Okay, so our good friend Showcase here says Walt Disney World Splash was much better. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Now,
if you want to get completely soaked, then you go on Disneyland's because that one you come off drenched.
Yeah, but we got a little bit of a coastal war here going on in the chat. Now we have Nerves and Gel saying I like Disneyland's better.
Oh,
I thought Disney World's put too much extra stuff in it. Oh, here we go.
Oh boy.
Ding,
okay.
ding, ding. Round one.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna add this to it too because there is a difference between the two. Disney World has more of a where you're kind of like watching the scenes. So it's almost like you're going through like a storybook transition where it's like you look to the left, you look to the right, you see the different scenes. Disneyland's, it puts you almost like in a three-dimensional within the scene itself. Yeah, so there's a difference between that. So it's almost like, would you rather kind of like watch the scene, which is at Walt Disney World, or kind of be in the scene for Disney?
There you go. That's interesting. Interesting. BJ Vincent, do you watch any Japanese anime, and what anime series do you enjoy? For example, I enjoy the Gundam franchise, Code Geass, Attack on Titan, Black Lagoon, Chainsaw Man, to name a few titles. You know what, BJ? I actually don't watch a lot of anime, but you know who does? Is a friend of the channel, Evan, who was on the channel the other day for the Ahsoka finale, and who will be joining us for the Pixar Story Geek show in the next few days. Evan is a huge anime person. So maybe, I don't know, we'll talk to Evan. Maybe we'll do like an anime thing with him or something one day. I don't know.
Now, as far as like the only kind of anime, now my son is a huge fan of Demon Slayer. Like he loves that show. Like it is like, that's his show. Which he tries to explain it to me and I don't know what the hell he's talking about. But I am a huge fan of Studio Ghibli. Like I love like the Hayao Miyazaki. I know it's like not the same, but I mean like in an anime type of style.
Yeah.
You know, I do love Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Kiki's Delivery Service, Castle in the Sky. I do love those.
There was a show, speaking of, oh man, no, I can't find it. Oh well, no worries. Yeah, so it's interesting. You know, I like anime in terms of visually, aesthetically. I never really actually sat down and watched any of it though. Unfortunately, I got to do that. Because I'm telling you, Asia is kicking our butt in entertainment. Because as many of you know, if you watch the channel, I didn't think I was gonna like K-pop, dude. I never thought of myself as a K-pop person. I'm obsessed with K-pop now. I'm obsessed with it. I absolutely love Blackpink and Twice and all them. I just love it. And so I think with anime, I think the storytelling is probably a lot better than a lot of the American stuff. I'm sure of it. So yeah, I'll give it a chance. You know?
And Showcase says Hayao Miyazaki is the Walt Disney of Japan. I actually have heard of that. They do title him as the Japanese Walt Disney, and I also heard that he does not like being referred to as that, which I think is kind of fun. Like, I don't know if that's the truth or not. Showcase, maybe you know, is that true? I've heard, as I said, I know that he is referred to as the Walt Disney of Japan, but I've heard that
He doesn't like it.
he kind of gets his feathers ruffled if you say that to him. I don't know if that's true or if that was just a rumor, but Showcase, maybe you could let me know.
That's interesting. He's like, no, I'm my own man. I'm Hayao Miyazaki. I'm not Walt Disney. You know, maybe that's what it is. He wants to be his own. You know, and I get that. But dude, if you're going to be compared to anybody, Walt Disney's not bad.
Yeah,
You're not
man,
doing
I
so
would take
bad.
that. Yeah, man, I'd take that as a huge compliment. I'd run
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. So Lord Jonathan here says, question, should Disney add Princess Bride to the parks? I don't know. That's a Fox thing.
It's a great movie. I love that. And that's actually, because speaking of like 80s movies, The Princess Bride is one of my favorites. Do I feel like it has the potential to withhold in a theme park?
Like a meet and greet, maybe?
Aesthetically, like the world of the Princess Bride, I think is kind of cool because it has this kind of like medieval tide mixed in like fairy tale land sort of thing.
Right.
But I don't know if like the storyline would hold up well in the theme. But you know, who knows? I mean, if someone told me that putting Avatar in Animal Kingdom was going to be a huge success, I'd say you're a fool. You know,
Right.
so I
still like your Planet of the Apes idea for Animal Kingdom. That's pretty dope.
Yeah,
dude.
I actually didn't think of that till they actually brought that up, and I'm thinking, oh, Planet of the Apes, Fox deal into Animal Kingdom. That'd be pretty sweet.
There you go. Bob Iger's on the phone right now. Hey, tomorrow, Daddy Josh,
Yeah.
make it happen.
Yep.
Planet of the Apes.
I didn't spend that $71 billion for nothing. Let's do something.
We got to justify this shit. Come on, Daddy Josh, put it in there now. So I want to thank everybody for coming on board with us today and talking shop with us. It was a lot of fun. Everybody in the chat, Retro Nerd Girl, Showcase of Wishes, BJ Vincent. Let me see. We got Nerves and Gel, Andrew Kellogg, Mr. McBeavy. I'd like to give a shout out to everybody, so bear with me. Trey Porter, Kiki and Luca, Lord Jonathan, Disney Resort Podcast, Jetta Jade, Matthew Murr, Mariana Barbara. Thank everybody for coming in and hanging out with us today. We're gonna do another live show soon. We love doing these live shows. You know, we love doing them. They're a lot of fun. So yeah, George, we're gonna close it out, and we will close it out with a little special surprise. We always have a fun little clip at the end on these live shows. But if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You could find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also check out the podcast I'm part of called A Walk with Walt. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info at Rudio.
Dude, our boy Rudio. Rudio, we miss you so much, man. We miss you so much. Rudio here says, I heard you get a Disney Villa stay by watching stream. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Now, Rudio is a friend of the channel. He's been on the show actually quite a few times, a couple of years ago. But yeah, brother, you're always welcome back. We always had a good time chatting Disney with you. Let me go ahead and get my little drop ready. Okay, so yeah, George, I want to thank you, brother, for coming on. I want to thank everyone in the chat for joining us today. Now, I want to ask the audience. I think I know what Showcase is going to vote. How should we end this show? I have a few options here. We can do Carl's Jr. We can do a money drop. You know, we can do Drunk Chewy. Or we can do K-pop. I got a crush on you. Whatever you guys. What should we do? I'll let you pick, George. What should we drop?
As much as I love the Carl's Jr. one, which I know it's always great, but we did that. We did that one. And I think I knew Showcase was going to pick that.
See, every time
I do it. I do.
We'll do two.
Okay, let's do a twofer. Yeah, let's do the Carl's Jr. and let's do your K-pop.
Okay, we'll do that. We're gonna end it with two. We're gonna do Showcase is here. We got to come through for Showcase, and then we'll do a K-pop, and we're out. Thank you all so much for watching OG55 live. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Bye bye, everybody.
It's cool, not trying to put a rush on you. I had to let you know that I got a crush on you.